they have built out of the box source validation that will help them. And so it's basically works on sophisticated workflow, and I love workflows. So that's why I have the niche to work for that.
Awesome. And how did you decide to get into SAP and into Vim? Like how did all that sort of play out?
So SAP, I was that time in 2005. It was still growing. It was it's that time it was not a wow, because there was PeopleSoft and other things. I think luckily I got into SAP because based on your credibility or based on your interview, they'll pick you up on the SAP front. So that was my luck. And if you can say on the VIM, actually, since I worked on workflow a lot, so people said, since you have worked in workflow, you can be a technical person who will work on Vim. So I figured it out that this is nothing but workflow and ABAP. So then I started, and most of the time what happened is the client was saying, okay, can you build this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And, with all the skill set I have, I made them happy. So they were pretty happy with Vim. So.
Got it. Was ABAP your first programming language? Your first love?
Yeah. So ABAP was my first programming. In the universities, I learned C, and to be honest, actually, I learned BASIC. There was a language called BASIC back in those days, where I was wearing shorts at that time when I was in the school. So it was in the early 90s. We used to learn BASIC. And then in the college, I learned C and C++, but not much. But ABAP, I think ABAP is one of the most language I have worked with. Not going against any Python or something. But if you have worked, it's like, let's be honest, ABAP is just like an Apple iPhone. Because phone is so user-friendly, it is also very user-friendly. So it pampers you to not like any other programming language. Like if you give an iPhone user a Samsung, he will not say, oh no, it's too much click, too much this, too much that. So yeah, that's one thing.
I think you may be the only person I've ever heard say that a part of SAP was user-friendly or like an iPhone. But maybe when you get down to the programming language, it feels a little bit different.
Programming language,
Yeah, I think a lot of the people who interact with SAP are maybe sort of think it's like the opposite, or maybe it's on the other side, particularly if they don't know how to use it or they've never been trained properly.
Yeah, so see, training is very important. Like today only, I was having a workshop for a client, and to be honest, they were saying, I need this to be done this. So I said, SAP is something where you have multiple solutions for a single problem. I'll give you options. So sometimes giving so many options, people get confused. It's not that we are confusing, we are giving you the flexibility of choosing what you want, So that can be a problem sometimes with the people, because they get confused. Oh, you can do like this, but once you have a knack of it, it's just like driving a car. Once you drive the car, once you get the feel of it, let's be honest, you're driving a BMW, you hit the accelerator, the gas, the way it moves from 0 to 80 in 2.5 seconds. Well, SAP is just like that, but you have to get the chemistry out of it. Once you have the chemistry, they would love it.
No, it's a good call out. Just as a quick safety reminder, Arghadip is talking about 0 to 80 in kilometers, not miles per hour. We don't suggest driving over the speed limit. So one of the other things I would love to chat about is what's happening at the ASUG Sapphire conference in Orlando, right? So Michael Management's attending. There's going to be a bunch of big names there. We're super excited to be there and hear all of the innovations and sort of new product releases and customer success stories. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on today is because of how much work you've done in the automation space. And this is huge for what they're going to be talking about at Sapphire. So in particular, it is automating workflows and business processes using AI, right? Which takes us into the the land of Joule. So I think you've had some experience with Joule thus far. What can you tell us about Joule? Just if somebody's never heard of Joule before, like what does it do? What's it bringing to the table?
I think Joule is an enabler for any technical consultant who is going into, or a functional consultant who wants to do small stuff. Okay, there is a lot of saying that there is, I think, a misunderstanding where Joule, they're saying, oh, Joule will replace the technical folks and all those things. No, it will not replace technical folks. It will probably automate some of the boring stuff that the technical person used to do a lot of time, and sometimes the let's be honest, the new generation gets the blame, get to blame about that it's a little bit boring and all those things. So Joule will make it more interesting, and again, it will not replace any job. So lots of times I'm saying, I see a lot of things, oh, it will be replaced here and then no, you will probably have more time to play around with interesting stuff than doing the boring stuff that we used to do. So that's one thing that would be very helpful, and also it would be a learning path for everyone with Joule. And since SAP is investing, and let's be honest, SAP knows what it is doing, and it's something that, and I have played with Joule for like 2-3 days. It's pretty good. It's pretty nice. So it's mostly in use now in the public cloud and the BTP frame, but eventually it will probably come into ABAP. But it can't see. Let's be honest. SAP is very vast. Okay, it's very rare SAP will shut down something. They never do. So they know it's so difficult. So that's why they are giving all these things so that people, the new customers, can enable this, existing customers can use them, and that will help them in the AI. See, nowadays everyone is doing AI. I think there is not a single company which is not doing AI. So Joule is another thing, and it will be an enabler. So we have to just take it as a friend rather than an enemy. Oh, it would kill the jobs and all those things. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a big worry, a big concern out in the world right now, is that folks are thinking that Joule is going to like full on replace development work. And you know what you're saying is quite the opposite here. That no, Joule is going to enable additional, more interesting development work. Can you talk a little bit about where you think that falls, right? So if Joule is sort of doing the boring stuff, what type of work might a developer be able to focus their time and energy and then ultimately drive efficiency for the end customer using Joule as an enabler?
So I think if you look into Joule, or I'm just talking about other Chat GPTs and all those things, they do the search based on what is available in the net or something, and based on that, it cannot be 100% perfect. I've played Chat GPT and all Joule, so it's like 30-40% it's correct, 30-40%. So after that, ABAPers have to do. Now, if there's something new they're working, Joule or Chat GPT is not going to help you, because it doesn't know what to do. Okay, because at the end of the day, it's based on all the data it is getting, right?
It's pulling from a repository, right? It's not It's not creative.
It's really like, if you're talking about Chat GPT or Gemini, they don't have an SAP system hooked up. They're not getting the data from there. They're getting data from the Google and the search and all those things. So there will be cases where you have to correct it, and most of the time you have to correct it. But the initial phase, I'm just giving an example. There's a functional guy who is brand new. He doesn't know. He says he has to build a open report. Lots of clients, they sometimes try to test, or they also don't know what will be in an open PO report. So this guy came fresh from a college after an MBA. He says, what will be the fields in an open PO report? So if you ask Joule or a Chat GPT, it will tell you what are the fields that will be required. So the functional can start from there, and the technical can also get the buy-in from that to start the development. So that's a very good, important thing. Joule is not only for technical folks. It's also for the functional folks who wants to know, for the newbies. Okay, it's very helpful because, to be honest, I have so many mentees working under me, so many consultant working under me. It's sometimes difficult to start them from scratch. Joule and all this AI engine will kickstart them so that when they are coming, it's like they have built a house. Now they will say where to put the pins and all those things. We can help them. So it's helping
Perfect.
us also.
Got it. You talked a little bit about how accurate ChatGPT or Gemini might be when it's pulling from, GitHub and all the other sort of
Yeah.
open source repositories out there on the web. I think the differentiator, right, is that Joule should be, at least in my mind, help me out
Yeah.
if I'm off base. Joule should be pulling from SAP, right? Joule, that's the repository that Joule is using. So when you're using Joule, what do you, and I know you don't have a perfect answer here, AK, so I won't hold you to it. What's the expected level of accuracy of something that you're asking in Joule, right? What do you think it's going to land at? Let's set like a range there.
So I think if I'm doing, since Joule is a product of SAP, so I expect to get at least 60 to 70% initial thing. Okay, because because they have their own repository and all those things. But again, you have to think out of this also. Most of the stuff that I'll be querying out will be custom stuff. Let's be honest, SAP may not have all those custom stuff. If you see the SAP folks, they only still build the stuff on S-Lite and all those things. There might be cases, they might not. So they might have to go into some consulting phase, get some data from it, because all these LLM and those things, they have the capability where if you hook it up with a great system, with a big system which has lots of custom development, it will learn from it and then it will start coding. So I think SAP will have that, but I will expect 60 to 70% initial go rather than 30 to 40 from a ChatGPT or a Gemini.
Well, so that's still great then, right? So if a developer using Joule,
Yeah.
that means they only have to spend 30% of their time doing that
exactly.
low level.
See,
right?
Another thing I noticed, it's like if I'm doing an enhancement, it takes 40% or 50% time to find a perfect spot to put my code. It's just like, we had that person who was having a machine problem, and then he got this guy, and he just went around and he hit the hammer in one place, and it started working. And then he charged, hey, what's your charge? It's $2,000. So you just hit the hammer. Yeah, $1 for hitting the hammer, and 1,999 is for just finding the spot where to hit the hammer.
Yeah, for knowing where to hit. Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's just like that. So Joule will help you to find the perfect spot where you can, rather than, we have been doing things like we are debugging, finding the perfect spot and all those things. So that can be a great enabler and probably reduce 50-60% of your effort in doing those. It will tell you the perfect place where to put the code.
I mean, that's an amazing productivity lift for
yeah. That's a huge
boost. So I think where I'd maybe like to talk and shift the combo is a little bit about this idea between private and public cloud and how Joule will interact between those two. Like, so we know, I think right now, Joule is available on public cloud, right? It's in a couple of specific modules or builds. How might the experience differ for a developer using Joule in a public versus a private cloud?
I think Joule on the public cloud would be more strong, because now SAP knows where are the places you can put, and it's very restricted where you can really code in public cloud. So I think Joule is going to help them in the public cloud tremendously. Not that they can help in private cloud, but in private cloud, I'm saying, SAP doesn't know what we have built. So any custom development, any custom program or custom table if I have built, SAP doesn't have a clue, right? It's not sitting inside my system. It's sitting in SAP's system, and that's the issue we have. But on public, SAP knows what's there, so it's very easy for them to build it.
So then is the onus on the customer who owns the private
Yeah,
cloud instance to train its version of Joule that's sitting in its private cloud?
exactly. So any try to stick to standardization and use less custom and all those things. But even if the reason you're buying private cloud is you're going to customize the heck out of it, right?
Exactly,
So
exactly.
so that's again, but I think you can train it. You can train the Joule and other things. So it will take some time. It will help on the long run.
Awesome. So right now, if we had to say, Joule is in kind of like a pre-seed or a series A or like a nascent stage, or we said like, hey, Joule is mature. Where do you see Joule right now on the spectrum of overall life cycle?
So I think Jewel is in his teenage, okay, is going into the adult phase. So it's exploring and doing all the baseball camp and basketball camp, and
You're
it's
telling me
eventually,
Joule is a little hormonal right now.
yeah. So it's in the teenage. It's a little rusty, but the a teenage can also join Apple and do a lot of things. Nowadays, you don't need a degree to do stuff. If you are smart enough, you can do it in 15. So I expect Joule to be similar like that. It's a teenage stuff, and lots of times, SAP comes with a little later, but it comes something very
Mm,
stable, and means not that SAP has products that goes in and out in a whisker, but I think Joule has a long way to stay, because to be honest, you have 84% of the world transaction running on SAP. So hey, when you're building Joule, at least you will get some, and eventually it will learn from itself, right? It will learn from
yeah,
its
yeah.
mistake.
The repository is huge. I think too, something I would like to mention is that if we're thinking about a product like AI or machine learning here, I know those terms get tossed around a lot, so they're not interchangeable. But the development life cycle is saying like, okay, Joule is in its teenage phase, right? You could trust a teenager to reach something high on a shelf, to take
Yeah,
a
yeah,
trash, stay home on its own. But the way that it develops is much more rapid than what
oh
we
yeah,
see in
yeah.
because of its
See,
ability to learn to be generated from itself.
See, the important about teenage phase, you have to also think integration. It's still studying. The
Right.
adult phase is it has studied, and it's a I don't need to study more, I'm done. The teenagers will study, it will learn, and it is learning about the new generation, how it learns. So sometimes you don't want to be an eBay, you want to be an Amazon, right? So not against any eBay or Nokia, but sometimes better to come second, third, and then start the revolution. People
Yeah,
make
agreed.
mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and then come with a big bang.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And I sold a table on eBay recently. So even though I don't put it on, I've used it recently. Where are some of the areas, right? We've talked about sort of public and private cloud and where Joule will sort of fall into those spots. What are some of the big functional areas where you see Joule making the most impact in the shortest time frame? And then on the flip side, where do you see it sort of starting to develop as it moves from its teenage years sort of into its young adolescence and its sort of
Yeah.
maturity? Where do you
I
see it
think
making impacts down the road?
I think Joule will kick in where you have the SaaS solution,
Hmm.
especially in Ariba, SuccessFactor, Fieldglass. Those are easy wins as it's a SaaS solution, so they can predict. And to be honest, they have all the repository. What are the customization people are asking? What are the things they have built from their cookbook or whatever? So that's one place they will go for sure. I think then you have other. They will later on they'll go inside the real SAP core module, because it's a little different. But I think they can still go, because if you think on the functional stuff also, to be honest, if I haven't used Joule. I think Joule doesn't have that yet. But if I'm using a simple chat GPT or Gemini, and I'm saying I need to do a configuration, that thing is that precedence of means the answer is like 80 to 90% correct.
To be done
Okay.
already.
So
Yep.
that,
Hmm.
yeah. So that thing is super. So you can believe now Joule will come with 100% accuracy if they can give 80 to 90% accuracy. So that
Yep.
piece is yet to come. but I think the control Joule will have for sure is in the SaaS solution for
Got
now.
it.
And I think they're pretty big in success factor already. So I have seen some use cases they're building.
So I think, success factors is a big one. We at Michael Management, we love our end users. We think it's kind of like the
Mhm.
unsung hero of SAP, since the market is so much bigger compared to like sort of the super and IT users on the SAP side. When do you think Joule starts to translate into success for an end user?
You see, for an end user, Joule will be a success, provided it's very easy to access. The
Right.
problem with all the accessibility, all the trainings, and all those things, it's just like, as you said, Michael Management has this concept, and I think probably SAP took it from you all later on. It was the micro learning that they came with, like 5 minutes,
Right.
6 minutes, things, people don't have time to watch our episode of how procurement works when I have
Hard.
a with the problem. Let's be honest, when I'm stuck with the problem of just a 1 minute thing, I don't need to read 100 minute. I'm sorry. So that's why those things really matters. So you have to integrate all those things. Another thing, I think Joule would be a great success if we have real screenshots and videos. Let's be honest, and I see it. It's sad. Like every project I go, the documentation is still in a Word document, and when I put a poll, 90% want say I want a YouTube video or a screen cam. So I'm saying,
Exactly.
is there a disconnect? Why will I watch a static Word document rather than I can make a video? It saves time for me because I can make a in 2 minutes explaining the FS or TR, and
Exactly.
I can save time. And it's more effective rather than going through the documents. And words means lots of things, to be honest. Unless you give me a flowchart, I can mean lots of things. And if you have if you have a screen cam with showing everything what it does, that's the way to go. I don't understand why we are creating documents still.
Yeah. It
Not
seems.
against Microsoft
Yeah.
products, but I'm saying no one uses it. So I have seen those Word documents. No one even double clicks and looks into it.
No.
If they have a clue what they're doing, they will say that the first time, probably 2 years ago, and it can be any document. I have also created lots of documents, but when I see no one has viewed, so what's the use of it? The
Right. It's
generation
like
is changing. Everyone is a Word document.
It's like when they, when people had to run the credit cards, that machine that was like, you remember that
Yeah,
thing way back in the day?
yeah,
It's why are we still handing people like these credit receipts when you could just email it to me and
yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's the
like
video same way.
you buy something in suppose Home Depot or something. They don't give a manual now. You check in YouTube. That's the way it is. So
Exactly.
if Home Depot, a handyman, is looking in a manual from YouTube, what the heck SAP is doing, we are doing by creating documents, which should
Exactly.
be it should be something hosted place, or they should just connect with. And lots of all those videos that we create, to be honest, are the same videos in every project. So why not hook up with Michael Management and give that thing? Hey, you have, yeah, you will probably not have 100% of it, but 90% will be there, and they're created by seasoned practitioners who knows in and out. And trust me, you will get more out of what you are doing
I think that's exactly
currently.
right. And thanks again for the shout out. Um,
Yeah,
So we talked about Joule making a splash and in Ariba and in Success Factors, places where it's already sort of a SaaS platform.
hmm
When might you see Joule starting to make waves in areas like supply chain management? I just like always kind of go back to thinking about what happened during the COVID times, right? Where we had this massive sort of bullwhip effect. We're still
yeah.
dealing with now. When does Joule start to become like predictive and analytical enough to make an impact and sort of smooth out the supply chain spikes?
I think if you think Joule has the power of the new technologies, like if you see SAP as SAP Signavio,
Yep.
or we have this Celonis, the process mining tool. So they have the feed from there, and based on what I think the greatest thing which Joule will do is with all the, it's, I can think, I don't know, people are fond of transformers. Joule will be probably an Optimus Prime, and other characters, Bumblebee and Raptors and others, they would be Signavi and other things, because they, with the power of them, they can be a strong force, and then Joule can predict what is there and what tool really can help, and it should be a plug and play. Let's be honest.
Yep.
I think the client is willing to pay you more not to show your face. So if you can plug and play, and nowadays if you see SAP also, sometimes when I build a solution, I think it's just like, there are some games I play sometimes, Subway Surfers and all those things. You don't need training to play that game. So SAP needs to be like that, easy to install, plug and play, and just I think that should be the way Joule should be. If to implement, because Joule is giving me things in seconds, but to implement, if it takes a month, then what's the purpose? The whole purpose is gone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So I do want to be respectful of your time, AK. I'll ask you one more question on the way out. So we're attending Sapphire next week. We're going to be in a bunch of the AI and Joule conversations. If they handed me the microphone and said, Colin, you can ask one question about Joule, what's the one question that I should ask at Sapphire about Joule?
So I think the one question you can ask is, what means first bits, the funny part is, you can ask this question where will Joule be available for SAP as well as non-SAP products? Because that's another question people are asking. Because
that's spicy.
Yeah, because SAP it's taking care. Now, if you want to go to the real dynamics with Microsoft, Gemini, and other pieces, they'll say, "Oh, I do everything. I do Python. I do this. I do that." What you do, tell me. I have those flexibility. So if you want to be a superpower, you are a superpower with SAP. But there are lots of homegrown solution people have, other technologies. So whether they can give them the same flavor, okay, similar to what they're giving, because it's now a competition coming out, right? Google has Gemini, and Microsoft Chat GPT. I think even Facebook has come with something, Llama or something. So it's
Lambda.
Lambda. Yeah, I was looking. So those, so I think that's something I think Joule needs to pick up. Where at some point of time they will say, okay, I can do SQL stuff also, Oracle stuff also. Why not?
So so it sounds like my plan for Sapphire is to corner Christian Klein and say, Mr. Klein, what I need to know is Joule going to support third-party integrations so that it can be the Voltron of all Gen AI.
Exactly. Yeah, because at the end of the day, that's where you should be. You have made this platform. Let's make it big. You don't worry. Means you have SAP in your pocket. Now, how can you expand it to the other? Because if you think that, then only it will come like, oh, I'm now a big power, superpower, where I'll be using like everything in Joule. Like imagine everyone has now a Chat GPT. Now they will say, why will I keep two LLM? Why not I use one? Will Joule create me a Microsoft PowerPoint like a Chat GPT? Will it do it? Why not?
I ask it every day, and I still haven't gotten a problem. I ask every single day. Well, AK, listen, thank you so much again for joining me today and chatting.
Thank you.
All these different things. It's so valuable for me to have that conversation. I really appreciate it so much. And I'll make sure and take a video of me asking Christian that exact question when I see him.
Sure. That would be fun. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, sir. Cheers. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, it's done, right?